Imagine a hot, dry desert where the wind blows sand across the ground like waves in the ocean. Hidden underneath that sand lies the broken entrance to an ancient tomb. Archaeologists had been waiting for over 3,000 years to see it again. When archaeologists uncovered it, it looked like a mess. The walls were damaged. Ancient flooding had left the floor soaked. The treasures that were once present had long since vanished. This location was the original burial place of Pharaoh Thutmose II. For many years, his name had been known, but his resting place was a mystery. He ruled during one of Egypt's most powerful times, around the 18th dynasty. He wasn't the most famous king. He didn't build a giant pyramid. His wife, Hatshepsut, is the one most people remember because she later ruled Egypt herself. But Thutmose II was still a real pharaoh, and every pharaoh's tomb was supposed to be special, full of golden treasures and magical carvings. The man who led the dig was an Egyptologist named Piers Litherland. He had studied Thutmose II for many years and believed this broken tomb was his original burial place. His team found pieces of damaged artifacts that matched the time of Thutmose II. The decorations on the walls were faded but correct. The location also fit. Floodwaters appeared to have struck and left behind a royal tomb. Upon examining the details, it became evident that Thutmose II had previously interred himself there. But one strange thing stood out. The discovery of Thutmose II's mummy occurred more than a century ago. Back in 1881, during a time when looting and grave robbery were out of control, a group of workers uncovered a hidden cache of royal mummies in Deir el-Bahari. This secret tomb had dozens of kings and queens all packed together in wooden coffins. It was a rush job. The people in charge were scared that thieves would steal the bodies, so they moved fast. They removed the mummies, labeled them, and reburied them within 2 days. There were no good notes. No photos. There are no official records available. Just guesses. A coffin marked with the name Thutmose II was accepted as his real body. Experts placed it in a museum, studied it, and used it for comparisons with other royal remains. For over a century, no one really questioned it. The label was there, and that seemed good enough. But with the discovery of the original tomb, the story began to crack. Why did Thutmose II's real tomb still exist if we had already found it? And why was it empty? Piers Litherland began to suspect something strange. The mummy labeled as Thutmose II didn't look right. The body was too old to match the age he would have been when he died. Most experts believed Thutmose II only ruled for a short time and passed away young. The mummy didn't match that. Also, the coffin it came in looked too much like another pharaoh's coffin, his grandfather, Amenhotep I. These discoveries reveal that there is much more to the biblical story than you ever imagined, truths that have been kept secret for centuries, waiting for the right moment to be discovered. And now, as old certainties are put to the test, finding clarity and understanding can completely redefine your faith journey. That's exactly what Forgotten Prophecies, the apocalyptic revelations that can change your future, offers. A path of guidance and wisdom through little explored biblical revelations, pointing to what really awaits us. This ebook delves deep into the prophecies and provides insights into tomorrow, and best of all, it's available for free. Click the link in the first comment and secure yours now before this opportunity is gone. The two coffins were almost identical. They had the same decorations, the same shapes, even the same strange bird symbols. However, one appeared significantly less expensive than the other, suggesting a hasty replication of the original. The Thutmose II coffin's face appeared rough, suggesting a later edition. Even the ears didn't match. Many people began to suspect that the coffin was a fake. Maybe the people who reburied the royal mummies couldn't find the real body of Thutmose II, so they used someone else and gave it his name. This idea made sense. Workers faced pressure when moving and hiding royal mummies. Their main job was to protect the dead pharaohs from robbers but also to strip the tombs of valuable treasures. If they lost one pharaoh along the way, maybe they didn't want to admit it. Maybe they just chose a body, put it in a spare coffin, and labeled it to avoid trouble. The theory started gaining support. Many believed that Thutmose II had vanished forever and that the mummy in the museum belonged to someone else. Then came the twist. Inside the bandages of the mummy labeled Thutmose II, scientists found a special message written in black ink. The ancient Egyptians used hieratic, an ancient cursive form, to write it. The message was not for decoration, it was a record. Something like a tag used by officials to mark bodies. These dockets are rare and usually tell who the person is and what happened to the body. This one had a very rare phrase. Repetition of interment. This implied that the individual had undergone 2 burials. There was no time to label properly, no time to record who came from where, and no time to preserve the burial context. They bundled up and took away kings, queens, and priests, leaving little more than a scribbled name on a coffin to distinguish them. At the time, it seemed enough. The label Thutmose II appeared on one coffin. That was good enough. People assumed the label was right. Museums accepted it. Experts studied it. The body became synonymous with his name. But labels lie when fear and haste are involved. When Piers Litherland uncovered what he believed was the original tomb of Thutmose II in 2022, everything changed. Located in the Theban necropolis near Luxor, the tomb was small, stripped, and damaged by floods. Yet even in its ruined state, it told a story. The remaining fragments matched the 18th dynasty period. The art style, construction method, and relic traces aligned with Thutmose II's reign, dated between 1493 to 1479 BC. Remember, the ebook that reveals even more about these little-known prophecies is still available for download. But act quickly, only a few copies remain. Don't miss out on the chance to discover what could revolutionize your understanding of the future. Litherland didn't dismiss the mystery. He followed the clues. The body labeled as Thutmose II had always been a puzzle. It appeared older than the king should have been. Most Egyptologists believe Thutmose II ruled for only 3 to 4 years before dying at around 30 years old. The mummy didn't match that. The skin was tighter, more leathery, and more aged than expected. Something didn't sit right. The coffin itself raised more suspicions. It looked eerily like the coffin of Amenhotep I, Thutmose II's grandfather. The shape, layout, and decoration were nearly identical. The only notable distinction was the superior craftsmanship of Amenhotep I's coffin. More elegant. More regal. Both had the same bird figure painted on them, but one had skillful drawing and the other had clumsy handwork. Amenhotep I died long before Thutmose II. But Amenhotep I died long before Thutmose II. Their tombs would have been built in different periods. They would have used different artists, different tools, and different workshops. Yet here they were, matching like 2 copies from the same mold. When the royal mummies were relocated during the 21st dynasty, the process wasn't respectful or careful. Tombs were looted, and mummies were recycled. Priests received orders to remove gold from the bodies, preserve what they could, and conceal the corpses. It's believed that the officials, perhaps not wanting to admit they'd lost one king, may have taken a prince's body and renamed it. The theory became more convincing. The coffin's age was poorly matched. The coffin was made using recycled materials. There are striking visual similarities between the two. The newly discovered tomb contained a missing body. It all pointed toward a lie told long ago and accepted for generations. But science doesn't stop at suspicion. It looks for proof. Inside the linen, written in faded black ink, was a rare inscription in hieratic script. It was an official record, what experts call a docket. These dockets often include names and ritual actions done to the corpse. The tomb found in 2022 had been flooded. The walls were stained by water. The layout was intact but stripped. If Thutmose II had once been buried there, the flood would have ruined everything. The flood would have destroyed his coffin, his wrappings, and possibly even his body. And that would explain why he needed a second burial. When scientists unwrapped the mummy believed to be Thutmose II, they didn't find a fierce warrior or a proud, muscled leader. They found something unexpected, a thin, fragile body. His bones were small. His chest was narrow. His arms and legs looked underdeveloped. He didn't appear to have the build of someone who spent his life leading armies or building monuments. His body told a quieter, sadder story. Don't forget that the gateway to these life-changing revelations is just a click away. Secure your copy of the ebook. Forgotten Prophecies, the apocalyptic revelations that can change your future. Now before it's too late, they are limited. The most noticeable thing was his skin. His skin showed signs of damage. Parts of it had lesions, areas where the skin seemed inflamed or scarred. To modern doctors, it looked like he had a chronic skin condition, possibly eczema. The condition is a disease that makes the skin itchy, dry, and red. It can be painful and cause infections, especially if left untreated. Ancient medicine couldn't cure it. For someone like Thutmose II, it would have made everyday life difficult, wearing the tight collars of royal robes, sitting under the burning sun during ceremonies, or even just moving without pain. His teeth also showed signs of trouble. The teeth displayed signs of wear and damage. There were signs of infection in the jaw. The infection would have caused swelling, headaches, and constant discomfort. Even eating may have been painful. Combined with his slight frame, it's likely that he had trouble maintaining strength. Royal food was rich, but if your mouth hurts and your immune system is weak, nourishment becomes a challenge. These signs led researchers to believe that Thutmose II may have suffered from more than just a skin condition. Some experts think he had an immune disorder, a problem with the body's ability to protect itself from illness. Conditions like this make it easier to get sick and harder to heal. People with immune disorders often have overlapping problems like poor skin health, joint pain, and fatigue. This would explain why Thutmose II appeared so frail and why he left behind so little evidence of personal leadership. This strange absence of leadership from Thutmose II now makes more sense. If he was sick for most of his life, it would explain why he stayed in the background. Court officials and family members likely made most decisions for him. He may have been king in name but not in action. He wore the crown, but others carried the kingdom. Even his early death fits the picture. Most agree he died young, perhaps in his late 20s or early 30s. For a pharaoh, that was an early end. His successor, Thutmose III, was just a child when Thutmose II passed away. That left a power vacuum, and Hatshepsut stepped in to fill it. However, a young king whose body couldn't handle the role may have initiated this entire political shift. It's easy to forget that ancient rulers, no matter how powerful, were still people. They got sick. They struggled. They died young. The difference is that most people didn't have their names carved into stone or their bodies wrapped and hidden for thousands of years. Thutmose II's story, revealed by his remains, shows a side of history that's more personal and emotional. Don't miss out on the opportunity to secure your free ebook, packed with never-before-seen revelations. Act now. There are only a few copies left to uncover the mysteries that await you. In ancient Egypt, names were more than just words. They were power. They connected the living with the divine and tied a person's spirit to their purpose. Every time someone said your name, it kept your memory alive. It was a way of saying, you mattered. You still do. The name Thutmose means, born of Thoth. Thoth was no ordinary god. He was the god of wisdom, writing, and magic. He was the one who meticulously recorded the passage of time. Thoth was the one who penned the narratives of individuals, rulers, and even the gods themselves. In the eyes of ancient Egyptians, Thoth was the great scribe of the universe. So when a child was named Thutmose, it wasn't just a nice sound. It was a message. This child was born with purpose, with divine intelligence, and with a connection to something greater than themselves. Thutmose II carried that name. At least 2 18th dynasty pharaohs chose it, but his story is the most intriguing. Though he ruled around 1493 to 1479 BC, today he's often forgotten in the shadows of his wife Hatshepsut or his powerful son Thutmose III. But what most people don't realize is how important he really was. Even if his reign was short, Thutmose II held the royal thread between generations. Without him, the famous rule of Thutmose III might never have happened. He was the bridge between the old and the new, the quiet link that allowed the royal line to keep flowing. And Egypt took that seriously, even hundreds of years after he died. Long after Thutmose II was buried, Egypt entered a new period known as the Third Intermediate Period, around 1070 to 664 BC. This era was a time of great change. The kingdom was no longer unified under one strong ruler. Robbers were looting tombs. We were forgetting the ancient kings. Some graves suffered destruction. But not all were abandoned. In this time of crisis, a group of priests, keepers of tradition and protectors of the dead, made a bold decision. They began to collect the bodies of old pharaohs, rewrap them, and hide them away in secret tombs to keep them safe from robbers. These priests believed that the king's body was not just a shell. It was the home of the spirit. Damage or destruction could result in the permanent loss of the king's soul. Remember to join our community by subscribing to this channel. His body showed signs of re-embalming and restoration. That means that priests opened his coffin, carefully unwrapped him, and treated the body again with oils, resins, and wrappings. Not everyone received such treatment. Only pharaohs and sacred figures were treated with this much respect. The goal was to preserve his identity, to make sure his name and spirit could continue in the afterlife. This process wasn't simple. It took deep knowledge of ancient rituals, access to rare materials, and careful hands. These priests were risking their lives in some cases. Tomb robbing was a crime, but even protecting the dead could be dangerous during unstable times. Still, they did it. They gave Thutmose II new wrappings. They fixed damage to his body. They sealed him again in a coffin, possibly one that had belonged to someone else, as resources were scarce, and then they hid him alongside other kings in a secret tomb at Deir el-Bahari, where he would stay for thousands of years, waiting to be found again. If you're enjoying this story, consider clicking super. Thanks. Your support helps us keep uncovering forgotten histories, one mystery at a time. This act of re-embalming tells us something incredible. It demonstrates the continued memory of Thutmose II, even centuries after his death. Still honored, he continued to be regarded as a significant figure in the grand narrative of Egypt. His name, born of Thoth, lived on, not through wars or temples, but through the devotion of people who believed in keeping his spirit safe. In today's world, it might seem like Thutmose II didn't do much. He didn't conquer faraway lands. He didn't build giant pyramids. He didn't leave behind big statues of himself. But he left something far more powerful, a legacy that was preserved on purpose. The discovery of his flooded tomb changed how we see him. It revealed a king who ruled briefly, whose health may have kept him from leading directly, but who was never forgotten by the people tasked with guarding Egypt's royal legacy. Even centuries after his death, priests took the time to rewrap his body, preserve his form, and tuck him into safety. This wasn't done for everyone. It was reserved for kings who mattered. Are you enjoying the story? Support our channel by clicking the subscribe button. Thutmose II's story wasn't one of glory on the battlefield. It wasn't about giant constructions or war conquests. His story was quieter. It was written in worn linen, carved in faded hieroglyphs, and sealed inside a reused coffin that somehow carried his identity through chaos, decay, and time. That story survived floods, theft, and mislabeling. It crossed thousands of years and only reached clarity through science, study, and a little luck. It's just built by the strong. Sometimes, it's shaped by those who endure despite their limits. His life may not have made headlines, but how he was preserved, rediscovered, and understood made him memorable. In archaeology, truth doesn't always arrive loud or dramatic. Sometimes, it surfaces quietly, in chipped wood or a phrase brushed onto ancient cloth. It demands patience, care, and a willingness to question what we think we know. And in the case of Thutmose II, the truth did more than confirm a name. It restored dignity to a forgotten figure. It showed us that even kings with no voice left behind stories worth listening to. Thanks for watching. Join our community by subscribing to this channel. Until the next video.